to my channel. It's Liesl, and I'm coming at you guys today with a soup video. I know you're like, it's spring, why are you making soup? Well, I live in Utah, where spring doesn't actually start until like May-ish. So we just have had some pretty cold weather for the last couple days, so I was feeling soup. So we're gonna make some soup today. And today we're making a super yummy, cheesy broccoli soup. And who doesn't love cheddar broccoli soup? I feel like everyone loves cheddar broccoli soup. It's super delicious. It's my husband's favorite. He literally could eat it all day, every day, if he could. We are gonna make it today. It's super easy. So if you guys wanna see how to make this yummy soup, just keep watching. Okay, so I'm gonna start off. I've got my stick of butter softened. It doesn't have to be softened, but it just makes the process go a little bit quicker so that it starts to melt faster. And whoop, there we go. And I'm gonna turn this on to like medium heat, medium/high heat is what we want. And we just want the butter to start melting all the way so that we can add in our cornstarch or our flour, whatever you're gonna use to thicken your soup. I'm using cornstarch because it's cheaper than gluten-free flour, but I have used gluten-free flour before and it works just the same. And while this gets heated up, I'm gonna take a bowl and I'm gonna go and get some hot water. I need 8 cups of hot water to mix with my chicken bouillon. So I'm gonna go do that and I'll be right back. Okay, and you definitely want to get your hot water getting really hot in the microwave while you're doing your roux, because you want this to be ready to go as soon as the roux is done so that you can get it starting to make the soup base. So I'm gonna stick this in the microwave for about a minute. It's already pretty hot, so I'm just gonna make it for like about a minute, minute and a half. And once it's steaming, then I'll take it out, mix in the chicken bouillon, and we'll have our chicken broth. And here we've got our butter and it's melting really good. You don't want it to burn, so you want to make sure to keep an eye on it. And the butter is almost there, and then we'll put the cornstarch in. I don't measure this, I just kind of eyeball it because I've made this recipe so many times. I basically just do it according to the thickness of it. So I'm just gonna add in the cornstarch now. And it's important to do the cornstarch and the butter first before you add anything else, so that you can make sure that your roux is the right consistency and the cornstarch is completely dissolved into your butter mixture. So this is your roux, and a roux is a French term. It's basically what you're gonna use to start your soup base. And I like to brown my roux. I like to cook this for about 3 minutes until it starts to get a little bit of a golden color. And you want to keep an eye on it because you don't want it to burn. But I do like to make it a little bit browned. I feel like it enhances the flavor. And while that's cooking away, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get my chicken broth ready. Okay, so here I have my hot water. We have 8 cups of water here, so you want to add about 3 to 4 tablespoons of chicken bouillon. I don't measure, like I have already told you guys, so I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it, and then we're just gonna whisk this together, and we're gonna go back to our roux. Okay, so as you can see, our roux has made a very nice golden brown color. Now, once it's gotten to this point, I start to add in my 2 cups of milk. And you'll wanna do this in spurts, and it's going to thicken up instantly. As soon as you put the milk in, it's gonna start to sizzle, and it's going to start to thicken. So you wanna add the milk in little bits so that you can make sure it's all evenly incorporated, because it's gonna start to clump up, if you can see that. And as it clumps up, you add a little bit more. And I figured that's about a cup. You can measure this out. But as I've told you guys a bajillion times, I don't measure this anymore because I've made it so many times. But you can measure out 2 cups of milk. So that's about a cup. I like to get that evenly incorporated until it's kind of an even consistency. Then you can add the other cup of milk. Okay, that's about 2 cups. And I'm going to mix this in. This is when I add my seasonings. So I'm gonna add some pepper, and I'm going to add some salt. While we're doing all of this, I'm going to preheat my oven for the chicken that we're gonna make. And I add my seasonings to taste. The more chicken bouillon you add, the less salt you'll want to add so that it's not overly powered with the salt. I add in some garlic powder and some onion powder, and then mix it all together. And then once that's all completely incorporated, I add my chicken broth. And you don't want your soup to be too salty because you can't take away salt, but you can always add salt. So this is our soup base. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover this up and we're gonna let it simmer for about 20 minutes. And this is just going to help it to start to thicken and to get all of those flavors really intermixed and get it all really yummy and ready for our cheese and our broccoli and our chicken. Okay, so we have our chicken here, and you can either spray the bottom or you can add a little bit of oil to the pan. I like to do this just so it has a little bit more oil, and I add about that much. And then I'm going to flip my chicken to coat it really well in the oil. And now I'm going to add my garlic powder and my onion powder and salt and pepper. And then you can flip them and do the other side. And all the while you want to keep an eye on your soup so that it's not burning. Make sure you're stirring it every 30 seconds or so to make sure it's not sticking to the bottom or anything. Mine is getting really nice and steamy. Okay, now I'm gonna pop these in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes, and then we will cut it and we'll add it to our soup at the end. All right, so our soup is almost to that point that it's going to boil any second. So I'm still stirring every 30 seconds or so. And this is the time when you get some me time, because this has to sit and simmer for 20 minutes and you have to wait for the chicken to cook too, and there's nothing you can do until it's done. So you get to just chill and relax. I figure now is a good time for me to just talk to you guys. I wanted to ask you guys, do you have any video requests for me? I want to make sure that I'm making videos that you guys want to see and that are applicable to you. So if you have any ideas in the comments, make sure you let me know. I had someone request a video the other day, so I added that one to the list. And so we're going to be making that pretty soon. I'm gonna keep it a secret. So let me know if you guys have any video requests and I will try to make all of them. Okay, so my soup has started to have a tiny little bit of a boil. You don't want it to get too hot, you just want to keep it at a simmer. So now we're going to turn the heat down to a simmer and we're going to cover up the top. And I don't have a lid that fits this pot, so we're just going to use a plate and be a little bit hillbilly on this, but it's fine. And then as this cooks for the 20 minutes, you want to stir it occasionally, especially at the very beginning as it kind of cools down a little bit. And you want to let it cook for about 18 to 20 minutes and simmer. And this is just going to help it thicken up and make a really good base for your soup. Here is my plate on top of my pot. It works. If you don't have a lid, just use a plate. Okay, and while your chicken is cooking and your soup base is nice and simmering and getting all yummy, I like to work on my broccoli. So I'm going to stick these two, these are steamable bags, and I like to get them out at the beginning when I first start getting all my ingredients out so they can start to defrost so they don't have to cook for as long. And then I stick them in the microwave for about 5-6 minutes, and then what I do is I cut them up with scissors inside the bag. It's kind of a life hack. At first, when I first started making this soup, I would put it out on a cutting board and then I would chop it up really fine, but then I learned there's a lazy way that you can do it. And I love lazy ways to do things. Once they cool down just a little bit, I'm gonna take my kitchen scissors and I'm just gonna go in and I'm just gonna cut up the pieces into tinier, smaller pieces. They're already into cuts, they're broccoli cuts instead of like whole pieces. So they're already, let me show you. I don't know if you can see. They're already fairly small, but I like to cut them up even more just so that they're even smaller because you are going to eat this with a spoon and you don't want just one giant bite of broccoli. You want it to be a lot more of an even consistency. I just go in and cut up the bigger chunks to make them a little bit smaller. So it's nice and chopped up and a lot more fine than it was before. And you can chop it up really fine if you want. You can leave it, you know, a little bit on the bigger size of chunks. But that's how I like to make mine. Okay, so now our soup is done doing its simmer thing. I'm gonna pull off the lid slash plate and we're gonna stir this up. And it's thickened a little bit. It will get a little bit thicker when you add the cheese, but if you want to make it even thicker, you can make a mixture of cornstarch and water, and this will help to thicken up your soup a little bit. I think I'm going to, because I think I didn't put enough cornstarch in to begin with, so I'm going to add a little bit of cornstarch with water just to thicken up my soup a little bit more. And we're gonna let that sit for just a second, let that cornstarch get all absorbed, and then we're gonna add our cheese. Okay, so now I've got my cheese. I measured it out because I buy my cheese in bulk, but Walmart does sell a bag of cheese that's exactly 4 cups. So if you wanna get that, that's an easy way to do this soup, but you can also measure out 4 cups, whatever you wanna do. So I add the cheese in parts because the cheese is going to take a second to melt, and you don't want it to be chunky and take forever to melt. So you add it in spurts. We're gonna add some more. I do about a third and then the other third and then finish it off. And the rest of the cheese. And as you can see, it's turning to a nice yellowy orange color. And you can add more cheese, you can add less cheese. My husband totally loves cheese, so I usually err on the more side, so it's nice and cheesy and creamy. Okay, and I did add a little bit more of that cornstarch and water mixture because I wanted mine to be a little bit thicker. So now it's very much thick and delicious and yummy. And while the chicken is finishing up in the oven, I'm going to add in my broccoli. Then at this point, I switched to using a ladle to stir it all together rather than the whisk.
Because otherwise the broccoli gets caught in the whisk and it's just a hot mess.
And doesn't that just look so delicious and amazing? You can leave it at this point if you want. If you don't want to add any chicken, you don't have to. I like to add chicken just because it makes it a little bit more filling and it also add some protein. And we're just going to let this sit, and once our chicken is done, we'll cut it up and we'll add it all in and I'll show you guys the finished product. And it is all done, you guys. It is so delicious. I love this soup any time of year. So make sure to tag me if you guys do make it at Little Liesl Creations, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!